They subscribe to the philosophy of the book Good to Great. It's easier to go from okay to good than it is to go from good to great. And those who go from good to great are constantly striving to do better. And I think that's what we're all about here.
I'm Cristina Janney with the Hayes Post and Eagle Radio, and I'm speaking with Doug Williams of Grow Hayes about the Hayes Playmaker Award and the development of land north of the former Hayes Middle School on this episode of the Hayes Post podcast.
Playmaker is an organization that works with and studies cities across the United States. They do studies on leaders and that type of thing, and each year they give a Community of the Year award. And out of 100 nominations this year, the city of Hayes was nominated as the Community of the Year. And so a big deal, outstanding, something we can really be proud of. Not really that big of a surprise to those of us who live here because we understand what kind of community we have for the most part. And but it was a wonderful recognition and always great to get an organization like that who looks at communities all across the United States, and to be selected as the Community of the Year is quite an award.
What are some of the things that they look at when they're looking at a playmaker?
They look at quality of life things. They look at economics. They look at entertainment. They look at safety, the way the city is run, the quality of the management of the city and how clean a community is, and just lots and lots of factors. Some of the things they noted in the award press release were things like Fort Hays State, obviously. The Bob and Pat Schmidt Community Center got mentioned, so we're excited to see that. The airport, our water conservation efforts, even though we face water challenges, we've stepped up and implemented some amazing water conservation strategies, and the community has really abided by those. And they talk about the Volga German heritage here and the work ethic. So they hit on a lot of those kind of things. And as I say, a lot of those things we already know, but it's great to see somebody recognize how well we compete amongst other peer communities.
Yes, and I know that there was a small ceremony at the Chamber banquet the other night, and Melissa Dixon, the director of the CVB, gave that award to the 2025 Mayor Sandy Jacobs. So that was kind of a nice way to symbolize, the community unity. Absolutely,
and that's one of the things. Melissa and her staff, they did some work in preparation of getting information together. They do a great job, and tourism was another part of the criteria, and Melissa and her crew do just a wonderful job of representing Hayes, whether they are out at an event trying to attract other conventions and events to Hayes, or whether they're hosting events. They always get the welcome bags together, and they feed the coaches for the Hayes City Shootout, and just on and on and on. So we're very blessed to have that department and do such a great job as well.
I think that a lot of times we get stuck on the things that we need to improve in the community and the things that we have problems with. But I think that we really do live in a wonderful community here in Hayes. I've lived all over the state for my job, and I've been here almost 9 years, and there's a reason why I stay. It's a really wonderful community. It is. And, sometimes I think we just take that for granted.
I think that's absolutely true. Now, I can't say I've lived all over. I've lived here for 69 years, and that's all of them. However, I have traveled a lot and been to a lot of different communities, and, they always say there's no place like home, and there really isn't. We are very fortunate. Not that we don't have things we can improve on, and I think that's part of this community playmaker concept, too. They subscribe to the philosophy of the book Good to Great. It's easier to go from okay to good than it is to go from good to great. And those who go from good to great are constantly striving to do better. And I think that's what we're all about here. We're trying to go from good to great. And I think in a lot of ways we are great. In some ways, sure, we need to do better. But if you're striving every day to do that, you're making good progress towards it. And eventually you get there.
And it's a constant effort. You constantly have to be working toward improvement if you're going to make that good to great.
You absolutely do. There's never, it never ends, and I'm trying to remember the quote I put in our annual report each year, and it's at the end of every day of every year, two things remain constant. One is our discontent with the immediate situation and our continuous striving for, to get to another level. And that is kind of what we're all about here. And I think that we're doing a great job of it.
Well, I'm going to switch gears a little bit. The other thing we were wanting to talk about this morning, there's some property for sale next to the former middle school, what's going to be Felton Elementary School. And that's bordered, I think, on the north by 33rd Street, basically. But it's about 7 acres. What do you think is going to happen with that property?
Well, the school district in some of their long-term plans now that it's kind of gelled as to where the schools are going to be, and we appear to be in a good place for the foreseeable future. I think they've opted that this land really doesn't have any place in their long-term plans, and they should put it to some other sort of use. So they have put it out for sealed bids. In my opinion, the most likely use is some sort of residential use. Now, whether that would be single family, multifamily, townhomes, duplex, I don't know. They have reserved the right to, they want to know what's going to happen with it.
Right. They've reserved the right to reject the bids.
And I applaud that. I don't think we want somebody just to buy it to sit on it. We want somebody to come forth with a good use for it. And I think for the right project, I would like to think that they would accept a lower price if it achieved what was good for the community and good for the school district. Obviously, for the schools, they'd like to see some sort of family housing, I would think, there of some sort. So it'll be interesting to see how it develops and and what the use is. I don't see any type of commercial use there. It's just not a commercial area. I don't think the zoning would be allowed to be commercial. Certainly not industrial for storage units or something like that. I don't see that. I think it's pretty much got to be residential or possibly, you could in your mind come up with some sort of an institutional use like a gym or something like that. But the Rec Commission's already doing that out at 13th and Canterbury. So, excuse me, I don't see anything like that. So probably some sort of residential use and hopefully develop some housing and some niches that we desperately need here.
Well, except for there's a church there to the east, but it's all bounded on other sides besides the school with residential housing.
Pretty much, obviously you've got what is now becoming the new grade school to the south. Right. Across the street to the east is the church, partly, but it is primarily a residential neighborhood, a quiet neighborhood. More residential use would fit in well there, and so I suspect that's what'll happen. And as I say, it'll be interesting to see what does develop. The good news about that, it's infill property, so the infrastructure is primarily there. The sewer, the water, those kind of things don't have to be run a long ways. It would just be a matter of laying it out, getting it platted, and then putting infrastructure into the actual whatever's built inside of it.
So what do you think we need more? Do you think we need more multifamily housing or more single-family housing?
Oh, that's an interesting question because we probably need more single-family. I mean, we're making some real strides with what Michael Graham has been doing on the multifamily side, and we're working on a couple of projects locally that would be the low-income housing tax credit projects. You never know if those are going to get awarded or not, but there are 3 applicants who are seeking to put in lower income apartments. So I look back and I look at the success of what Tallgrass has had and the fact that out there were, over the last 3 or 4 years, there have been 66 homes built, all sold before they were done at that price point between $225 and $325. So something along those lines perhaps would be needed. I also think that as a community, we've had a lot of false starts with townhouses in the past that haven't been particularly successful. But I think that tide has turned. I think the generation that are buying new homes and starting now, they like the concept of a townhouse. They like the concept of not having a yard to take care of and that kind of thing. So I think if a developer was to come in and put in some somewhat affordable, whatever that really means, but entry-level townhomes, I've seen some in Salina that they've done, and they've hit some price points over there that, in the low 200s, thereabouts. I think that would I think that would have some appeal and could appeal to young families. And by townhomes, I mean multi-story, 2-story units. Retirees don't want 2-story units. They want everything ground level. But younger families, you get more bang for your buck, and separating the living areas from the bedrooms and things sometimes can be good if you got a lot of kids that are screaming and running around. And so I could see something like that, or at least a portion of it, being utilized for that area, and I think it would be great.
I know that we've talked in here, especially in relationship to the Tallgrass addition, that the cost of construction has just been really high. So do you think that's a barrier to that development? Well,
it is a barrier to any development. Not only the cost of construction of the actual units, but also of the infrastructure cost. And so if you start, and I know they had an appraisal done on the land, and I don't know that they published what that was. They've speculated on what it might be. But if you start with that, and I think you could put probably somewhere between 20 and 30 different homes or what have you on that land, and say that I think the number that was thrown out there was $600,000 for that land. Well, you already start with $20,000 per lot in raw land cost, and then you can add another $40,000 to $50,000 per lot for streets, sewer, and water. So now you're up to $60,000 or $70,000 per lot, and you haven't even built the house yet. So it becomes really challenging to make those kind of things work, and that's why it takes an RHID or some sort of creative structure with which to pay for that infrastructure to even make any of these remotely possible. So that's what it'll take to make it work. We'll see what kind of housing actually would go in there, and with me, what I'm speculating will be in there is housing, and there'll be a Target going there or something like that. That'll be how that'll work. But
I don't know if the school district would go for that. Maybe.
Well, maybe for a Target. Oh, it's not big enough for a Target anyway. But it's going to be some sort of residential use in my mind, and I'm hoping that some sort of a creative developer can come forth with a concept that the school district likes, and it will be great for the community, and we can add some housing in the areas where we need it.
Okay. Anything else you want to add from Grow Haze this morning, Doug?
Well, I would. Although it's a little snow covered out there at the Grove right now, they are up out of the ground with a couple of houses, starting to frame them. Got the roof going on one of them, and so they're moving along on that. So that's exciting. And the final 6 houses on Wheatland, been a long time coming, but they're all framed and moving along, and so that's exciting to see. We hope. Obviously, with this kind of weather and that kind of thing, they can't start on the infrastructure for phase 4, but they will be in the next 60 days or thereabouts. And, we have a need for that. As I mentioned 1,000 times, all the homes in Tallgrass sold before they were done. And each of the builders out there that were building homes have a waiting list of people, dozens of people who still want homes out there. So we need to get them built.